The Boeing 747 didn't just fly, it rewrote aviation history. Engines failed mid-flight, secret rooms were hidden upstairs, and one plane even survived a volcanic eruption. These are 20 weird facts about the Boeing 747, and the bonus? Let's just say this giant almost never left the ground. Buckle up, this flight's about to get turbulent. NASA used a special modified 747 to carry space shuttles piggyback across the country starting in 1977. The shuttle sat on top like a giant backpack strapped to the plane's body with special attachments. It looked completely impossible but worked perfectly every single time they did it. The 747 flew the shuttle from California to Florida dozens of times without any serious problems. People lined the streets below to watch it fly overhead at low altitude. Kids pointed at the sky in total amazement at the incredible sight. It was one of the coolest and most unbelievable sights anyone could ever see in aviation history. The modified 747 had special struts and attachment points welded onto the top of the body. NASA retired the shuttle in 2012, and the 747 carrier made its final flight with Space Shuttle Enterprise to New York City. Thousands of people watched from parks and rooftops as history flew overhead one last time. The 747 stands as tall as a 6-story building when it's parked on the ground at an airport. Its tail reaches exactly 63 feet and 8 inches high into the sky above the ground. You could stack 3 full-size school buses on top of each other perfectly and still not reach the top of that massive tail. It's basically a flying skyscraper that weighs over 400 tons when fully loaded with fuel, passengers, and cargo. When you stand right next to one on the runway, you feel incredibly tiny like an ant. The shadow it casts on a sunny day could easily cover half a football field from end zone to midfield. It's so unbelievably big that it makes other commercial planes look like children's toys sitting next to it. The wings alone are longer than the entire first flight that the Wright brothers made at Kitty Hawk in 1903. Each engine hanging under the wing is bigger than the body of a small private jet plane. A British Airways 747 flew straight through a thick volcano ash cloud on June 24, 1982 over Indonesia at night. The plane was flying from Kuala Lumpur to Australia with 263 people on board. All 4 engines stopped working at the exact same time in the pitch darkness because volcanic ash clogged them. The plane dropped 25,000 feet in complete silence and total darkness while passengers screamed in terror. Captain Eric Moody kept trying to restart the engines over and over while staying calm. He even made a famous announcement saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking. We have a small problem. All 4 engines have stopped. We are doing our best to get them going again. I trust you are not in too much distress." Finally, the engines roared back to life just in time before hitting the ground and crashing. Everyone survived the absolutely terrifying fall through the dark sky. The plane looked like it had been sandblasted by the volcano ash, with all the paint stripped off and windows scratched completely foggy. The pilots couldn't see through the front windshield and had to land using side windows. It became one of the most famous emergency landings in aviation history and taught airlines to avoid volcano clouds forever. The President of the United States flies in a specially modified 747 and 200B called Air Force One when he travels. Actually, any Air Force plane the president is on becomes Air Force One, but everyone thinks of the 747. It has a full bedroom, multiple offices, a conference room, and even an operating room inside for medical emergencies. The plane can refuel in mid-air from a tanker plane and fly forever without landing on the ground. It's basically a flying White House with all the same security systems and communication equipment. The president can run the entire country from 40,000 feet in the sky during a crisis. It costs over $200,000 per hour to operate and has technology most people can't even imagine. The plane has 4,000 square feet of space inside across 3 levels. There are 2 galleys that can feed 100 people at once. The president has a private bathroom with a shower. Special shielding protects against electromagnetic pulses from nuclear bombs. Air Force One can withstand almost any attack and keep flying. During the very first test flight on February 9, 1969, the plane's wing flaps got stuck in the wrong position during landing. Test pilot Jack Waddell couldn't slow down properly for landing like he had carefully planned. He came in way too fast, touching down at over 200 miles per hour on the runway. He almost ran off the end of the runway into the dirt and grass beyond the pavement. They fixed the scary problem before telling anyone outside Boeing how close they came to complete disaster. Jack Waddell's incredible skill and years of experience saved the plane and probably saved Boeing from going out of business forever. It was a terrifying secret they kept quiet for many years until he retired. Waddell later said it was the scariest moment of his entire career as a test pilot. If the plane had crashed on its first flight, airlines would have canceled all their orders immediately. Boeing's reputation and future depended on that one successful landing, and it almost didn't happen. Boeing bet the entire company on the 747 back in the 1960s. If it failed, Boeing would go completely broke and disappear forever from the aviation world. The company president, William Allen, even had to borrow $1.2 billion from a bank just to finish building the first plane. That was more money than anyone had ever borrowed for a single project before. Workers at the factory knew that one plane decided if the company lived or died. The pressure was absolutely crushing on everyone involved. Every single person's job depended on this giant bird flying perfectly on the first try. Boeing risked everything they had built over 50 years on a dream that most experts and airline bosses said was completely impossible to achieve. Allen later said he lost sleep every single night worrying about whether he had destroyed his own company. The gamble paid off, but it could have easily gone the other way and ended Boeing forever. The factory in Everett, Washington didn't even exist when they started building the plane in 1966. Workers built the massive building and the plane at the exact same time, racing against an impossible clock. Rain poured through huge holes in the unfinished roof while they hammered and welded metal below in puddles. They worked day and night in the freezing cold and pouring rain without stopping. The building became the largest building by volume in the entire world at that time. They finished the first 747 in just 16 months, which was absolutely crazy fast for something so huge and complicated. Nobody in the aviation industry thought they could actually do it on time. Even Boeing's own engineers had serious doubts about meeting the deadline, but they proved everyone wrong with incredible hard work, long hours, and pure determination to succeed. Workers sometimes slept at the factory instead of going home just to save time and keep building. The 747's iconic hump on top wasn't planned for passengers at all when they drew the first designs. Boeing's chief engineer, Joe Sutter, thought cargo planes were the future of aviation, not flying people around. They made the cockpit upstairs on a second level so big trucks could load heavy freight straight through the nose without anything blocking the cargo bay. The hump was just designed to get the pilots out of the way of the loading area. Passengers sitting in the fancy hump section came later as a bonus idea when Pan Am airline boss Juan Trippe realized they could sell way more expensive tickets up there. That famous bubble shape on top was never meant for first-class passengers drinking champagne. Joe Sutter later admitted he thought the whole upper deck would just be used for crew rest areas and storage. Instead, it became the most desirable and expensive place to sit on any airplane in the world for decades. The enormous wings are giant fuel tanks that hold an amazing 57,000 gallons of jet fuel when completely filled up. That's enough fuel to fill over 1,000 bathtubs all the way to the very top with fuel. A regular family car could drive around the entire world over 40 times with that much gasoline in the tank. The 747 burns through every single drop of it in one long flight across the Pacific Ocean from California to Asia. Each massive wing can hold enough fuel to fill a decent-sized swimming pool in someone's backyard. The fuel alone weighs more than 10 full-grown African elephants when the tanks are completely full before takeoff. The wings are so big that workers can actually walk inside them during construction and maintenance checks. Engineers designed special pumps to move fuel between different tanks to keep the plane balanced perfectly during the entire flight from takeoff to landing. Early 747s that flew in the 1970s had incredibly fancy spiral staircases leading passengers up to the upper deck lounge. They thought looked like something straight from a rich person's mansion or a 5-star luxury hotel in Paris. Airlines like Pan Am loved showing them off in expensive television commercials to attract wealthy customers who wanted the best. Passengers felt like glamorous movie stars walking up those elegant curved stairs with a drink in their hand. The stairs were made of polished metal and carpet that felt soft under your feet. Later in the 1980s, airlines removed them to fit way more seats and make more money from ticket sales. They replaced incredible beauty with pure profit and greed. Those magical spiral spiral staircases disappeared from most planes, and boring regular straight stairs took their place instead. Today, you can only see those original staircases in aviation museums or old photos from the golden age of flying. There's a completely hidden bedroom located above the passenger cabin that most travelers never see in their entire lives. Flight attendants sleep there during super long trips across the ocean that last 12 or 14 hours. You need a special secret key to open the locked door and get inside the crew rest area. Passengers walk right past the hidden entrance every single day without knowing it's even there behind a normal looking panel. Some bigger planes have bunk beds for 10 people packed in tight like a submarine. It's like a secret apartment floating in the sky at 40,000 feet above the ocean. The crew rests and sleeps while you're watching movies and eating dinner below, completely unaware of the hidden room. The beds have curtains for privacy, small lights for reading, and even seat belts in case of rough air. Flight attendants take turns sleeping in shifts, so someone is always awake to help passengers during the long flight across multiple time zones. The 747 has 4 powerful engines, but only needs 3 to fly safely according to aviation rules. One engine failed over the Pacific Ocean once on a flight, and the plane flew for 5 whole hours on just 3 working engines. It's built super tough and can handle serious emergencies without crashing. Pilots train for this exact scary situation all the time in expensive flight simulators that cost millions of dollars. The plane stayed in the air and landed safely with everyone on board perfectly fine and unharmed. Having 4 engines means there's always a backup if something goes wrong during a flight over water. In fact, a 747 once lost an entire engine that fell completely off the wing, and it still landed safely at the nearest airport. The pilots barely had to change their flight plan because the other 3 engines had plenty of power. This safety feature has saved hundreds of lives over the decades when engines failed for various reasons during flights. A single 747 has over 6 million different parts working together perfectly in harmony. If you counted one part every single second without stopping to sleep or eat, it would take 69 full days to count them all. Half of those 6 million parts are fasteners, which are basically fancy screws, bolts, rivets, and clips holding everything together tight. Every single part has to work exactly right or the plane won't fly safely. Engineers check thousands of parts before every single flight during detailed inspections. One loose bolt could cause really big problems at 40,000 feet, so they're super careful and thorough with safety inspections. Boeing keeps detailed records of every single part, where it came from, who made it, and when it was installed. If one part fails, they can track down every other plane with the same part and check them all. The supply chain for parts involves thousands of companies from dozens of countries around the world working together. The entire nose of the 747 cargo version lifts up like a giant mouth opening wide to eat. Workers can drive a big truck straight into the plane without taking anything apart or using a ramp. They load cars, boats, helicopters, machinery, and even other small airplanes inside the huge belly. It swallows cargo whole and flies it across the world in just hours instead of weeks on a ship. The nose section weighs several tons but opens smoothly with powerful electric motors and hydraulic systems. Watching it open looks like something straight from a science fiction movie about the future of transportation. The hinges are specially designed to handle the weight and stress of opening and closing thousands of times. Cargo workers can load the plane from both the nose and the side doors at the same time to save time. This design made the 747 the perfect plane for shipping everything from fresh flowers to racehorses across continents quickly. There's 171 miles of electrical wire running inside a 747's walls, floors, and ceilings throughout the plane. That's enough wire to stretch from New York City all the way to Philadelphia without breaking or running out. All that wiring controls lights, computers, entertainment systems, and critical flight controls that keep the plane in the air. It's like a flying computer wrapped in metal and plastic. If you laid all the wires end to end in a straight line, they'd stretch farther than most people drive in an entire week. Every single wire has a specific purpose and connects something important to something else in the electrical system. The wires come in different colors to help mechanics know what each one does during repairs. Boeing employed special teams just to plan out where every wire would go inside the plane. Installing all the wiring takes weeks of careful work by skilled electricians. If even one wire is connected wrong, it could cause serious problems during flight. Some countries turned 747s into flying hospitals that can go anywhere in the world quickly. Germany and other nations have these special medical planes ready for emergencies. They have full operating rooms, intensive care beds, X-ray machines, and tons of medical equipment packed packed inside carefully. These planes rescue sick or injured people from disaster zones and war areas around the globe. They can treat up to 400 patients at once while flying across oceans to safety and better hospitals. Doctors and nurses perform complicated surgeries at 30,000 feet in the air while traveling at 500 miles per hour. It's like a whole hospital that flies faster than a race car on the ground below. The planes have special stabilization systems to keep equipment steady during flight. They carry tons of medical supplies, blood, and medicine for emergencies. These flying hospitals have saved thousands of lives by getting people to proper care quickly. A standard 747 has around 16 bathrooms spread throughout the plane from the front to the back. That's more toilets than most family houses have in total across all their bathrooms. Airlines empty the waste tanks after every single flight using special vacuum trucks at the airport. The tanks can hold thousands of pounds of waste on really long trips across the world, lasting 14 hours or more. Flight attendants have to keep them clean and stocked with supplies constantly during the flight. With 400 people on board eating and drinking, those bathrooms get used hundreds of times during one long international flight. The toilets use a vacuum system instead of water to save weight. Each flush uses less than a pint of blue chemical fluid. The waste is stored in tanks under the floor until the plane lands. Cleaning crews completely service all the bathrooms between flights. On the longest flights, attendants check and clean bathrooms every hour to keep them nice for passengers. The 747 starred in dozens of Hollywood movies over the years since the 1970s. It crash-landed in action films like Airplane, An Executive Decision, got hijacked by bad guys in thrillers, and even flew through terrible storms in disaster movies. The plane became a huge Hollywood superstar that everyone recognized immediately when it appeared on screen. That iconic hump made it stand out from every other plane in the sky and on film. It made the 747 the most famous airplane ever built in history. When directors needed a plane for a movie, they almost always chose the 747 because audiences loved it and knew it. The plane appeared in Die Hard 2, Air Force One, Con Air, and many more films. Even James Bond movies featured the 747 in action scenes. The plane became a symbol of luxury, adventure, and sometimes danger in popular culture around the world. In 2017, the last 747 passenger flight in America took off for the final time from San Francisco. United Airlines operated the final flight to Honolulu, Hawaii on November 7th. Airplane fans lined up for hours to buy tickets for the historic final trip at any price. People cried real tears when it landed in Hawaii for the last time as a passenger plane. Now only cargo versions fly in the United States for shipping companies like UPS and Atlas Air. An entire era of aviation ended that sad day in November. The Queen of the Skies retired from carrying passengers after nearly 50 years of service. Kids today will never experience flying on one like their parents and grandparents did in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The plane changed how middle-class families could afford to fly across oceans. Delta Airlines retired their last 747 in 2017 too, ending an era for American aviation. Boeing built over 7,500 of these amazing giants since the first one rolled out in 1969. The last 747 was delivered to Atlas Air on January 31st, 2023, ending 54 years of production. They flew to every single continent on Earth, including Antarctica, for research missions. The 747 carried over 6 billion passengers safely through the years without a single structural failure. That's almost everyone alive on the planet today has flown or could have flown on one. No other plane changed the way people travel like the 747 did for the world. It made flying affordable for regular families who never flew before. Before the 747, only rich people could afford to fly across oceans to other countries. This plane changed everything forever and made the world feel smaller and more connected. Airlines from over 100 countries operated 747s at some point in history. Engineers at Boeing and other airplane companies told Boeing the 747 was completely impossible to build successfully in 1965. It was too big, too heavy, and way too expensive to ever make money or find customers. Airlines didn't even want to buy it at first because they thought it was stupid and unnecessary. Pan Am's Juan Trippe was the only airline boss who believed in it and ordered 25 planes. Boeing built it anyway, ignoring everyone who said it couldn't be done or would fail. The impossible plane became the most iconic aircraft in aviation history. It proved that when people say something can't be done, they're usually wrong if you work hard enough and believe. Joe Sutter, the chief engineer, became known as the father of the 747 for his work. He led a team of engineers called the Incredibles, who made the impossible happen. The 747 won countless awards and changed aviation forever, despite everyone saying it would never work. From secret bedrooms to flying through deadly volcanoes, the Boeing 747 proved that impossible is just an opinion from people who give up too easily. This giant changed how the entire world travels and never stopped surprising us with amazing stories. If you learned something wild today that blew your mind, hit that like button and subscribe for more facts that'll change how you see the world around you.